Hey, it's Sparky, 5 or 1250 AM, The Fan. Make sure to check me out at Sparky Radio. He is Nathan Marzian, Bucks super fan. Check him out at Nathan Marzian on Twitter, like so many of you do. We are recording this here on Thursday, like we normally do. And it is a Twitter poll question Thursday. And we always put out the Twitter poll question from Nathan Marzian's Twitter account. And he had a lot of reaction to today's poll question. So we'll get you the results of that. We'll talk about that coming up a little bit later in the podcast. Plus, we're going to talk about NBA referees and everybody seemingly having issues with NBA refs nowadays in the league. The Phoenix Suns having some issues. There was some talk about Scott, what's his name? Scott Foster being a referee the other night on the bench. Everybody was laughing about him being the referee and giving a heads up. Plus, we'll talk about what's more important for this Bucks team come the postseason, the offense or the defense. But first, we'll start off with the Bucks' upcoming schedule and just how big of a deal really is it? Again, we're talking about 5 games in 7 days, right? 4 of those are road games for the Milwaukee Bucks, 2 back-to-backs in that stretch. And then, of course, the second game of back-to-backs, because that's always important, is Denver at Denver, and then home versus the Boston Celtics for game 2s. We've talked about this in the past, Nathan, as far as, when do you want to rest guys, picking that game to rest guys in back-to-back scenarios. If you want to give Middleton a breather, or if you want to give Giannis a breather, or Holiday versus playing them in both games of a back-to-back. Now that we're getting closer to the end of the season and probably rest becoming more of a thing, I guess, going forward, are we still on the same agreement that probably a good idea to rest those guys for one of 2 of back-to-backs? Now, in the situation of Boston, you want to play them against Boston, obviously. Denver, I don't know. I mean, from an MVP standpoint, does it mean anything for Giannis playing the Joker to voters' minds? I don't know if it does one way or the other. But that might be something worth playing Giannis in. I don't know if it's worth playing Middleton in because it's a non-conference game. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, to me, I don't think they're going to take MVP stuff into account at all. Like that's something obviously that the league likes and the media likes, and they hype that stuff up. But in reality, it's like the Bucks are going to be focused on getting that 1 seed, and I'm glad that it sounds like they are. That's something they are focused on. Grayson Allen came out and talked
Yep.
about it. He said we want to get the 1 seed. They have I saw they have like a standings thing. I think it's in the locker room where they're keeping track of that stuff. They're keeping they want to keep this 2.5 game lead and finish this season strong, which I'm like, that makes me happy because it's not something that they're just going into it and saying, oh, if we get it, we get it. But it's, that's not what we're prioritizing. We want to prioritize health, and we're going to, we don't really care about that. No, they clearly have some motivation, and it eases my mind because I know that the games that, we look at and say, oh, this is a big game for the standings. They're going to be looking at it the same way, and they're going to come out, hopefully ready to play and at least giving it their best shot to win. So it's a tough stretch here. You got 5 games in 7 days, and then right after that, you have the Sixers. So
Go over those 5 games. I don't have the schedule in front of me. Go over those 5 games for people that want to know what the schedule is.
So tomorrow is at the Jazz.
That's
and
Friday
then,
night. Yep.
Yeah, and then Saturday, the next day, at the Nuggets. So I heard Chris is probably likely to play tomorrow. Does that mean he's out against the Nuggets? Do they kind of just, say we'll take the L in that game and maybe rest up and try to get ready for this, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday next week? Maybe. I mean, you could look at it that way. If the Bucks look at it and say, that's a game we easily could lose even if we are healthy, should we just take it as a loss, basically, and, rest up for those and try to win the 3 next week?
Right.
Maybe they do that. I mean, maybe the guys are, again, I think it's more just how are you feeling on that day? I believe if Chris wakes up and is like, I'm ready to go, and Giannis feels good, I think they're going to just go for it. I think they're going to just try to play these guys and win as many games possible. And
let me ask you this. Do you think if Giannis throws up 50 against the Joker and Joker ends up with like 25, 6 and 8 or whatever the heck may be, do you think that's enough to sway a voter at this point? Or do you think most voters' minds are made up?
I think it can sway them with how close it is. If it was something that, oh, Giannis isn't likely to win it, we're basically out of it. You're not gonna go from out of it to you're all of a sudden the favorite by one game. But I think Giannis is squarely in the race right now. I think there's a decent amount of people on all three sides. And so I think if again, in those two games where they all play each other, like I'm pretty sure do the 76ers still play the Nuggets? I'm not even sure. But I know that, we play the Nuggets, we play the Sixers still. And if Giannis can go off in those games and maybe go off in the Boston game, like though that end of year stretch, clinching the 1 seed and just dominating could easily be something that sways voters. But again, in the Bucks' minds, that stuff doesn't really matter that much. I don't think they're going to be thinking too much about that. Like we have to play him for MVP stuff, and Giannis doesn't care about that. So anyway, so Jazz Nuggets is the back-to-back coming up tomorrow, Saturday. Then Monday they play at the Pistons. Hopefully, should be a win. And then at the Pacers Wednesday, the back-to-back next night is home against the Celtics. So again, you're going to play the guys against the Celtics? Will they play them against the Pacers? Who knows? I have no idea. And then Sunday is the Sixers. Then after that, they have at Wizards, home against the Bulls, home against the Grizzlies, at Raptors. So overall, pretty tough stretch, but it's nice they have a little bit of a cushion here. It's nice that you're not a game behind or a half game up and like you really have no breathing room. I mean, the Celtics only have, I think, 9 games left, and we have 10. I mean, if we go 6-4, which is a bad stretch, if we go 6-4, they essentially have to go 9-1 to beat us out.
Right.
I mean, that's
They're not
still,
catching the Bucks, I don't think, at this point, unless the Bucks essentially go like 3-7 or something stupid like that, which I can't imagine happens if they're healthy.
yeah,
Let me ask you.
It would have to be either we go way like super bad or they get red hot and go 9-1,
Right.
10-0, which they could do. I mean, they're a really good team. Like they could go 9-1, 10-0. They don't have a super tough schedule, but the way they've been playing and stuff and with how the Bucks have been playing, like there's not a whole lot that makes me that concerned about it, because I look at us and I say we've been playing such good basketball. I don't see us going worse than like 7-3 probably,
I think a lot of people are on NBA players for taking rest days, and Silver's mad about it and so forth. Okay. But I think the NBA needs to consider something going forward. In the NFL, they went to changing the schedule for more drama at the end, saying you're going to play your division at the end of the year every year. So more drama if division races are close, whatever the case may be. I think from a rest standpoint, the NBA needs to start thinking about, okay, within so many days of the season ending, there will be no more back-to-backs on the schedule. Like we have to get to that point of the last 2 weeks, no back-to-backs, or the last 3 weeks, no back-to-backs. Something to kind of help and assure that the teams that are going have a better chance of, A, having their players play if there's no back-to-backs, and B, giving these guys some rest here heading into the postseason. I don't know what goes into making the schedule. I'm sure a lot goes into it because you have schedule, you have all these venues that have concerts and everything else that goes along with having an NBA schedule. Some venues have college games. See the Bucks that they also have to go and battle with throughout a majority of the season before the college season is done. So that would just be my suggestion to Silver is there has to be a way to, if we're going to have all these back to backs, fine. But to have an ability or have the ability to have these back-to-backs early in the season when these guys are fresh and aren't beaten up and haven't played a full season, I'd rather have back-to-backs in November and December and January than have these back-to-backs in March and April at this point, Nathan.
Yeah, but from the other side of it, I think you could argue that if you have them early on, guys will just skip them because the game's not quite as important. You're not trying, you're just getting started. You're not trying to go super full all out in November, December. Whereas if you have them now, guys are getting going and they're kind of want to test their limits and, push themselves a little bit because we're getting to the playoffs and you want to ramp up.
Sure.
And so, again, I don't like it. I'm not happy that the Bucks have these back-to-backs, but it does, if they play in them and stuff, it's going to test their endurance. It's going to test, just how well they're doing going into the playoffs. So that's something that, could be somewhat of a positive from it. And just, again, ramping up as the season goes along. I don't hate it from that perspective, but it's unfortunate just given that, we're fighting for the 1 seed and we have to go through a pretty tough stretch here. But as I said, this team's playing so well. I don't think they're going to go bad enough and the Celtics are going to go be good enough in this last stretch for them to catch us. But it's largely going to come down to that, not all going to come down to it, but a big part of it will come down to that matchup, Bucks Celtics. Glad we have it at home. And if we win that one, we should have it pretty much locked up at that point. We'd have the tiebreaker and everything. Like, there should be no questions asked. If they win it, okay, it'll get interesting. But again, I still think as long as we don't completely collapse here or anything, like, we should be good enough to get this 1 seed.
I agree with you. Topic number 2 here on Green and Growing. Also, don't forget YouTube. We are now on YouTube as well on the Odyssey Sports page. All you have to do is go look for Green and Growing or the Kurt and Long podcast, talking Packers football with Ryan Horvath and myself. Spare Time Bowling Show. We talk about the PBA Tour. All of those live on the Odyssey Sports page on YouTube. Those get downloaded a couple of days after the audio versions of it get downloaded on Odyssey, Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts. So that's how that works if you want to look at our beautiful faces. All right, Nathan Marzian. Here's a tweet from Gabe Stoltz. And of course, people know Gabe Stoltz from Brew Hoop. Says, after holding San Antonio to just 38.7% shooting tonight, the Bucks have now held opponents to below 45% shooting 39 times this season, a league high. They're now 36-3 in those games. The question is this: will playoff success for this Bucks basketball team be more about the Bucks offense or more about the Bucks defense, Nathan?
I do think it's defense. Now, obviously, both are extremely important, but I do think defense, I would lean, because that's what we saw them excel so much at the year they did win it, where they just were such a good defensive team in the playoffs. And that really is kind of what carried them to the title. And B, if there was one side that I think they need more margin for error on, it would be the offensive side. And if you can just be locked down defensively, it gives you that margin for error that, like, okay, if shooters are off, it's okay. Like, you can still win games having poor shooting nights. The turnovers have been a bit of an issue. Like, you can still survive those things. Whereas if, all of a sudden their defense was bad, like, I feel like you have more margin for error on that side than you probably do you prefer to have more margin for error on the defensive side than on the offensive side, because they're so good defensively. They're more consistent on that end. I'm not as worried about them having a horrible defensive game or a horrible defensive stretch as I am about them having a cold shooting stretch and a stretch where they're not able to score super well. But ultimately, one of the best things about any championship team, and this team, is they can do it they do both ends really, really well. They've been red hot from three lately, and obviously you have Giannis and Chris and Drew and Brooke playing fantastic offensive basketball, and they're arguably the best defensive team in the league. Like, that's ultimately what's going to win them this, is if they can be good on both. But again, if I had to pick one, it would be defense is a little bit more important in terms of playoff success.
I think for me, it's about the offense, and it's about 3-point shooting. If this team goes cold from three, they tend to struggle, and that's where it is. If you're going to get beat in a 7-game series to Philly or the Celtics or somebody in the Western Conference in the NBA Finals, I'm guessing, maybe I'll be wrong, but I'm guessing it's because you shoot like 25% from three in those 4 games that you lose, or 30% from three, and you don't shoot the three all that well. And that allows them to pack it in and allows you to miss wide open shots. That's going to be a problem. If you're hitting wide open shots, the rest of the offense is wide open. And there's lanes to be driving to the rim for Giannis and everything else. If you're not hitting those threes, the offense gets a lot more tough for this Bucks basketball team, it seems, in the half court. And they don't use Brook Lopez enough around the rim in the half court when they do get to struggling, which is another beef that I have with Bud. But either way, maybe that'll change in the playoffs. He tends to adjust to the team he's playing in the playoffs after the first couple of games, shown he can do it enough to win a championship. They have the roster to win a championship this year. So hopefully he's able to pull the right strings and make the right moves in the postseason this year to go win another championship, because I firmly believe they should be the overwhelming favorite at this point to win this damn thing. So we'll wait and see how it goes. All right, topic number 3.
I have a quick counterpoint.
Sure.
So you said if they go cold, it's obviously going to affect their chances, but you think that has a bigger impact on whether they can win a championship than
because
defense.
I don't worry about the defense. I should say this. I don't worry about defense as long as Brook Lopez is out there. Now, if Brook Lopez gets hurt, okay, well, then that changes everything. Then defense becomes the bigger priority. We've seen Brook Lopez is a complete game changer on the defensive side of the floor by what he provides when he's out there. We saw it when he didn't play the other night. So I don't worry about their defense. I more worry about their 3-point shooting, and they're deeper this year and they're better. Right? Crowder, Joe Ingles has been feeling it. We'll talk more about him coming up with the Twitter poll. He's been feeling it from outside with 3. They've got enough guys now where it shouldn't be a problem. But that is still my fear, because the NBA is so largely dictated on making 3-point shots nowadays that really is a large piece to the puzzle.
See, if the bigger fear is that the offense could be, could fall down, that to me makes the defense more important because that means you can fall down a little bit. My counterpoint is that in the 2021 playoffs when they won the title, they only shot 32% from three. They were like arguably the worst, or they were the third worst 3-point shooting team in the playoffs that year, and still won the damn title because they were the number one defensive team. And to me, the shooting, like again, in the playoffs, when you rely a little bit more on your star players and a little bit more on Giannis, and you lock up on the defensive end, the shooting becomes a little bit less important. It's still huge. It's still, the game ultimately largely comes down to making or missing shots, but they're not just chucking a ton of threes. It's a little bit, okay, running more sets and running more stuff for your best players. Chris mid-range shots, Giannis getting into the paint, Drew in the pick and roll, Brooke either threes or down low, but like you're not relying on your role players quite as much offensively. So I think you can survive if they're not hitting a ton of threes because you can just give it to your best players more and again, lock up on the defensive end. So again, that's my argument is that they showed it in 2021 that they didn't have to shoot super well and they still won.
All right, let's move on to the next topic. Do you consider NBA officiating to be a problem? Now, the Phoenix Suns, Monty Williams went off in a post-game presser about free throw differential in one of his games. And Nathan Marzian, again, if you don't follow him on Twitter, Nathan Marzian, that's your fault. He's always got the numbers, always pointing out, bringing some sensibility to different issues around the NBA. And you quickly jumped out there on Twitter and started laughing at Monty Williams for complaining about said free throw differential. Please explain.
So I'm tired of the Suns complaining about the officials because, and it's one thing to complain about the officials, say, oh, we should have got a couple of calls down the stretch, and I thought we were unfairly officiated. That's you can say that, but their argument is always this team shot this many our opponent shot this many free throws and we shot this many. Yesterday he was like the Lakers shot 46 and we only shot 20. Guess what? Your team takes the fewest shots per game around the rim in the NBA, the most mid-range shots. You're not going to get as many free throws that way. That's your style of play. It's like a team that runs the ball a ton, complaining that they didn't get as many pass interference calls as a team that threw the ball 50 times. Well, no, of course. That's just your style is not going to get those. Doesn't mean, and I'm not saying the Lakers didn't get some calls and the officiating was perfect by any means, but at least use a better argument than you shouldn't just have this thought of there should be even free throws and that means there's even officiating. No, teams play different styles. Some teams are going to get to the line more than others. The Giannis is going to get to the line more than a ton of other players because of the way he plays. That doesn't just mean he's, the officials like him more. No, he drives to the paint a ton. I also hate when people are complaining about how Steph Curry only shoots 5-6 free throws a game and Giannis shoots, 12, 13. And you're comparing him to these big guys that shoot. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. I know they're both superstars, but Curry's not going to get as many free throws as big guys. That's just how it works. And so that's my thing with this, with the Suns specifically, is I'm just tired of them using that as their complaint when it's just, okay, if you want more free throws, maybe attack the basket, maybe get a little bit of rim protection so that you aren't forced to foul. That's the other thing is they don't have rim protection.
Right.
So then they're forced to foul everyone as soon as they get into the paint. Okay, you're going to not, your free throws are going to be there's going to be a big disparity there. I do think that there is a little bit of an officiating problem. I mean, I think it's becoming a little bit too hard. And this isn't saying that games are officiated unfairly, but just overall, I think there's a bit of a problem with defenders not being able to do much.
Yep.
And it's too far in favor of the offensive player where,
like the NFL.
And it even happens with Giannis sometimes. I mean, so many times he drives in, he's getting contact, he's drawing contact and he's getting actually fouled. But there are times where it's like he drives in and it's not Giannis' fault because Giannis doesn't foul bait. He's not out there flopping and stuff, but he'll drive to the paint and it's like someone's playing pretty good defense on him and they still call a foul because you bumped into him a tiny bit or and so it's like, you got to let these guys get away with something, or not even get away with, but you got to let them play defense. Otherwise, you might as well just let the guy drive right past you, because if you touch him, it's a foul. And if you get in his space at all, it's a foul. And that happens around the league. And even on jump shots, it's like you can't even contest jump shots because you're going to get in their landing space or they're going to flop, and it's going to just be it's going to somehow end up as looking like a foul. And the thing I hate, and someone tweeted this, I don't remember who it was, but I saw it this morning. The thing I hate is that they fall so much for either flopping or just hitting the ground. Like if you exaggerate contact, it'll get called. But if you didn't exaggerate it, it would not have gotten called. And it's just the slightest stuff. You guys driving and he just kind of tilts his head back or something,
Right.
and just makes a little bit of a move, like they'll call it. And it's like, that doesn't mean there was contact. Like you gotta be better at noticing when there actually is a foul and something that actually is, like should be called, or just a guy exaggerating and a guy trying to get a call. I do have problems with it. And I think that I hope it goes back a little bit the other way of, letting defenders be able to defend more and not completely favoring the offense.
What about, because I can't remember another time this has happened, and you old guys out there that are older than me, you tell me how many times you've seen this happen in the NBA, because I can't come up with one. Obviously, we know about Donahue getting kicked out with the gambling or whatever the case may be, but I don't think I've ever seen a referee get demoted in season, ever. And I definitely have never seen a referee get demoted in season because of a player going crazy. And that's what happened. Fred VanVleet went off, if you remember, a couple of weeks back in that video going crazy about Ben Taylor, who was a head referee, and he's no longer the head referee. He got demoted for the next several games off of that deal. And dude's been in the league 10 years. I mean, he's 37, so he's been in the league a long time. And Van Vliet clearly had issue with this dude, and just let it all out. I don't care if I get fined, whatever. I'm drawing attention. Somebody needs to go look at how this dude refs. Pointed up, NBA obviously must have went back, looked at in some film and said, yeah, I think he's right. He's not doing his job correctly. Like, you're done. And they didn't suspend him. He's not missing paychecks or games, but he's demoted. He's no longer the head ref on a crew when they go to an NBA game. I think as an NBA fan who has issue with referees, that should be positive, I think, in NBA fans' minds, that the NBA did do something, because we always talk about, why don't they fine these guys? Why don't they suspend these guys like they do players when they don't do their job or do something wrong? Well, the NBA just did something.
Yeah, exactly. That's the one thing too, is everyone wants some accountability for the refs, because they're the ones that, they don't dictate the game as much as players, but they have, it's somewhat close. Like you could argue that, calls and stuff dictate the game just as much. And they don't get held accountable. They make a wrong call, and we talked about this on the pod before, but make a wrong call and it's like they'll come out and say, okay, that was the wrong call, but we're not going to change anything. Nobody's getting any accountability. It's just, we made the wrong call, we screwed up, cool. And it's like, no, that's not how it should work. They should, again, either be fined or be, have suspensions or demotions, or at the very least make them get up on do a press conference after the game and like have some accountability of, hey, what did you see on this call? Like add some explanation behind it, and some transparency, something along the lines there of, just making them more accountable.
They do, though. They do have a referee that does talk to a pool reporter, one person that gets to talk to the referee after a game if there's something controversial one way or the other. It just happened the other night when the Mavericks were on the wrong damn side of the court and weren't down there, and they had an easy basket. And that referee came out and explained what happened and pretty much said, wasn't our fault. They pretty much misinterpreted what was going on out there on the floor. And then obviously Mark Cuban was ballistic. And pretty much said, I'm appealing this. This is stupid. This never should have been allowed to happen. So again, more refereeing being brought into the spotlight. There was a pool reporter there. He answered the question as far as what the referees did in that situation and how the NBA reacts to this. We'll see. But as of right now, nothing's changed or nothing has happened. They claim they did the right thing.
Yeah. Is that new where they have a...
No, they've done it. I don't know. They were doing it back when I did a post-game show. But I think it's only in situations where there is something like that's controversial and needs to be talked about one way or the other. Then that occurs if the media are saying to like the Bucks, right? Hey man, we want to know about this, whatever else. I think then they're like, okay, fine. Well, you guys get one guy, figure out who it is. We'll get the head referee to talk to you guys after the game. I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. We can double check with Eric Name and Ozarski, but I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. You're breaking up. I can't hear you. Try again.
They're okay. They might talk to one person, or there might be like a kind of behind the scenes thing going on. But
Right.
it's like I think some people want that to be more in the forefront and be, put a spotlight on them and
Kind of like the head coach goes up to the podium. You want the referee to do the same thing.
yeah, or again, anything that will draw like put a little bit more pressure on them and just like let them like it kind of give them some feeling of okay, I have a little bit more pressure to do my job right. Because again, it just feels like they can mess up and they kind of know that even if I do mess up, yeah, people will be mad, but it's not the end of the world. I'm not,
Right.
nothing's really going to happen.
Yep.
And I think some people kind of get bothered by that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. All right, last one. Time for you to tell everybody your Twitter poll question again. If you don't know, on Thursdays, Nathan Marzian will put out his Twitter poll question Thursday mornings, usually at Nathan Marzian on Twitter. And then we go over where the results stand as we record the show and discuss the results, which way we would have voted versus what everybody else voted. Now, this one is fresh off of Joe Ingles, shooting really well. But having said that, Nathan Marzian, what do we got?
All right. So, which of these guys would you trust the most in the playoffs right now? The what are the candidates are Pat Connaughton, Joe Ingles, Javon Carter, Grayson Allen. Which guy would you trust the most? So, Joe Ingles won 55%. Javon Carter was in second, 22%. Pat Connaughton third at 17%, and then Grayson expectedly was in last at 6%. So to me, that there's definitely a lot of recency bias in that, and there was about 2,500 votes. So there's good amount of recency bias, and I'm not saying you can't have some recency bias because he is playing super well, and if you just believe he can carry that into the playoffs and everything, and
even you though on Twitter said you're impressed by how well he's done on offense.
oh, he's been awesome. I mean,
Yep.
I didn't expect him to have this level of shot making and scoring. Like I was more okay. He's gonna not score a ton, but he'll be more of just a ball handler, playmaker, than a super big shooter. I know he can shoot the ball, but I didn't expect him to be shooting 58% in the month of March. But anyways, so to me, I he's been playing bad. He's struggling. I think Pat Connaughton's my answer.
He wouldn't be in my playoff rotation if we started today. He
He,
wouldn't be in my rotation.
but
There's
here's the
no
thing.
way you can justify that dude being in the rotation. And I was gonna. That's exactly what I was gonna say when we got to this. When it came up to whatever, and you say Grayson was last. Grayson's done more lately than Pat Connaughton has, as far as having games where you're like, okay, he's hit some shots. Here we go in the last month. You can point at games. Connaughton, you can't. Connaughton is I play hard, I hustle hard. They like me. Bud loves me. Then I'm going to get into the game and play. And that's fine if that's his reasoning is, well, he's an energy guy, I guess. I think Javon Carter can be an energy guy as well. Of those four, Allen and Connaughton, and you can pick which order, rightfully belong on the bottom of that poll, in my opinion. Like, I think they got it right. I would have voted the same way. I would have went Ingles, Carter, and I don't know. I don't know about Carter and Allen. I don't know. But it definitely would have been Carter would have been second behind Joe Ingles for sure, without question. And then after that, you can debate between Allen and Pat Connaughton. But again, to me right now, and it's going to be matchup based, right? You've talked about that, Nathan, as far as some series, maybe you'll see a lot of content. Other series, maybe you won't see a lot of content. And that'll probably be how it works. But to me, I don't know, man. I've never been a Pat C fan to begin with, and he hasn't done anything to sway me going into the playoffs. And now they're deeper than they were. So now there's really not as much of a have to go play him. Otherwise, I have to play like Bryn Forbes or somebody. So like you're no longer in that situation, thankfully, to where he has to play. So there's my Pat C rant. Go ahead.
To me, and as you said, it's going to depend on the series and everything. And I think with Grayson and with Pat and with all these guys, honestly, it's good that you have all these options.
Yeah.
Because as you just said, I mean, if guys go cold and if Grayson sucks and if Pat still sucks, and it's like, okay, we have other guys we can play over them. We're not locked into those guys. And that's what's the beauty of this team right now is that they're going to have so many options. To me, like, I don't trust Grayson Allen. I've been a Grayson Allen guy, but his defense isn't gonna. He's gonna struggle defensively in the playoffs. Pat's defense is much better, and
agreed.
He's always been streaky, he's like, if you go look at the 2021 season, he was really good in the playoffs for us, right?
He was.
Right before the playoffs, I think it was a 10-ish game stretch right before the playoffs. He shot like 29% from three. And then he goes into playoffs and turns it on and is awesome and is a huge part of our. And it's so I'm sitting there going, okay, we've seen this movie before. Pat struggles and he's going through a bad stretch, and everyone's kind of like, oh, is Pat Connaughton bad? Should he even be playing?
At the beginning of the year, everybody was telling me how great Pat Connaughton was because he started off so well. Remember that? Oh, Pat C, Sparky, Pat C, look at how good he is now. And I said, y'all settle down. We're like a month in. Let's just see if he's playing this way all year. And sure enough, sideways we go, and we're back to the same old Pat C.
But this is my point: is that he's already had this year some hot stretches. He's obviously going through a cold stretch. What's stopping me from thinking he's going to get to the playoffs? He's comfortable there, and he's he's becoming due for a hot stretch.
He is due.
So what? Like and again, he's the one of these four besides Javon Carter. I probably trust him more defensively than Ingles or Grayson overall in a series. Like if I'm going to play them big minutes, and he's done it before. I mean, he's been in these games. I can't shake my trust for Pat. Like Pat's, to me, Grayson's someone who's like, they do not have my trust and they have to do something to earn it. Pat's like, you do have my trust until, if we get into playoffs and you're struggling, okay, you've lost my trust. But Pat has it right now. Grayson doesn't. Javon and Ingles are kind of in the middle. I mean, we saw bad Ingles for the first,
coming
couple
off
weeks
injury.
or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, and again, there's a chance that, he all of a sudden comes back down to earth, and it's like, okay, his shooting, all of a sudden goes into a slump, and you're not giving you a ton defensively. Okay, do we want him to play a ton? There's so many different ways this can go. Javon obviously is going to be good defensively. He can sometimes be a little chaotic offensively, so I don't love having him out there a ton. And I don't think he will be. I mean, you're going to have Drew as the starter, and Javon's in that backup role, which is a perfect spot for him. But that's my whole thing. Pat is the one guy on this list that I'm like, you firmly have my trust, like from past experience and from everything, until, if you can still lose it, but he has it right now. So I'm still going with Pat.
That's fine. You can go with Pat C. Because he's going to play, folks. Hey, for those of you that are like, I'm with Sparky. Well, you may be with Sparky. It ain't going to matter because you ain't Bud. So Bud's going to play his guy, and Bud's going to play Grayson too because Bud likes Grayson. So they're both going to play, and they're probably both going to play minutes when all of us are screaming at the television, get him off the floor. Why is he on the floor? And Bud's be like, he provides veteran leadership. He does this well. He does that well. He looks good when he runs in his shorts the other side of the court. I like watching him. So we're going to leave Bud in there. We're going to leave Grayson in there for a little while. Who knows his reasoning on half the stuff he does. But he's won a championship. So from that perspective, for the most part, you have to just trust him at this point. Trust me, it's hard for me to trust Bud, but it is what it is. He's got a championship ring. He's done it before. This is a better roster than he had the last time. The road through the East, to me, if you go back and that Nets team that they had to go through, Philly that year was the 1 seed. Everything that they had to go to get through there with the roster they had was incredible. Now they have it, as far as I'm concerned. People in Philly and Boston, you want to argue with me, that's fine. As far as I'm concerned, they got the deepest team in the league right now. So you want to roll against the Bucks, that's fine. But I am expecting a championship at the end of this season. And if it doesn't happen, I'm going to be pissed. So just beware. Really, really pissed. Because like Rodgers and like Brett, you aren't going to have these guys forever. This offseason, what's going on with Brooke? What's going on with Middleton? There are questions. We aren't guaranteed anything as far as who's back, who's not back going into next season, and how long this is going to go. Giannis has a couple of years left on his deal. Then we'll see what happens with Giannis. Like the window's not going to be open for the next 10 years. That's my point in all this. It's just not. Hey, look at Embiid in Philadelphia right now. He thought, rightfully so, he had a nice large window. If Harden picks up and leaves and goes back to Houston like they're saying, he might be screwed for a while until they can get another star there to go play with Joel Embiid. You just don't know how this is going to go. Injuries and whatever else. And when you have these opportunities to capitalize and finish when you're healthy, and they're healthy, right? They weren't healthy last year, but they're healthy now. You have to finish, man. You don't want to be in a situation like a Packer fan going back, damn, we had Giannis all those years. We have one damn ring and one finals appearance in that whole time. Because that's what Packer fans are doing right now about Aaron Rodgers in the Super Bowl. One damn Super Bowl appearance. The man's going to go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. You got one damn appearance. And did I love the Giannis appearance? Yes. Did I love the fact that I got to see a Bucks championship before I died? Yes. Very cool. Love it. But he's a Hall of Famer. He's going to be one of the greatest of all time when it's all said and done. You got to get me more than one.
Yes, and they will. 3
I
months,
love
Sparky.
Nathan
3
Marzian.
months.
It's nice, Spark. They will, Spark. Don't worry. You're getting all worked up. They got this. Don't worry
Hey,
about
this is the thing. The difference between, because I'm very positive when it comes to the Bucks usually, and I'm not that way with the Packers. And I'm very like, I don't trust them. I don't think that they're going to do enough to, put a team out there that can win a title. And like, I criticize their management more. I criticize their moves. And with the Bucks, I'm very much more like, I believe in what they're going to, like, I trust these guys. They won me a title just, 2 years ago.
Right.
Probably would have won it again last year. I trust this big three with my life. Like, I trust these guys. I believe in them much. Like, at the end of the day, it's like, who do you want leading your team more than Giannis? Nobody.
And by the way, speaking of trusting your team, Bart Winkler brought this up the other day on Twitter. Folks, losing a regular season game does not mean they're going to suck in the playoffs. And this nonsense all season long, every time they lose a game, and God forbid if they lose 2 in a row, it's always, oh my God, this team sucks. They're going to have to do this. What are they doing wrong here? Dude, y'all need to chill the hell out. They are the deepest team in the NBA. We've been saying it all year. Marzian was getting pissed off at you guys earlier in the year. Y'all just need to relax. Seriously. This is not the Bucks battling to get into the play-in tournament, and every game means something of whether you're in the play-in tournament or you're out of the play-in tournament. This isn't the Bucks battling to be a top 4 seed to have home court advantage in the playoffs. It's not. Who cares? Fine, they lost the other night. Who cares? Move on with your life. There's other things. You want to stress? If you're a Brewer fan, stress about what they're going to do in the next 2 years when Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, and Willie Adamas are all free agents, and all of them are probably going to walk away because they can't afford to sign any of them. You want to stress? Stress about what Jordan Love is going to look like with 2 inexperienced wide receivers, no tight end, and a running back in Aaron Jones, who we all love, who's probably done after this year. Stress about Joe Barry and that crappy defense. Stress about that. This Bucks team, there's no need to stress about anything. You don't have to stress about anything probably until, I don't know, middle to end of May. You got 2 months of stress-free basketball. Just chill out, relax, have a cigar, have a whiskey, a bourbon, whatever y'all do to relax, and chill the hell out and quit overreacting to every little damn thing in a regular season game. Y'all are driving me nuts. I was much more calm about this early in the season when Nathan was overreacting and getting pissed off. I was like, whatever. But now we're here. You're the 1 seed, the whole deal, and we're still overreacting to crap. Stop.
Hold on. When did I overreact? I was the one.
You were mad that they were overreacting. And you were telling them to chill out. Wait till Chris Middleton comes back. Wait till Joe Ingles comes back. Then let's see what we got. Everybody quit freaking out. You were telling them to stop. And I was like, yeah, you're right, Nathan. But I wasn't getting mad about it. You were getting mad like, this is nonsense. Just everybody chill out. Now I'm at that point of getting mad and telling everybody to chill the hell out. So I finally reached that point. You've finally broken me. So congratulations, Bucks Nation. There you go. Here's Nathan Marzian. Follow him on Twitter at Nathan Marzian, Bucks super fan. Fun follow. You can follow me at Sparky Radio. Boring follow. And Green and Growing. Download these podcasts Tuesdays and Thursdays. We record around 5 o'clock. They get posted that night, and definitely, if not that night, definitely by the next morning. Check it out. Tell your friends. Tell your family members. Green and Growing is a place to be. Have a good one. We'll record again on Tuesday. Toodles.